Hey guys, it's Generalkidd here. How's everyone doing today? So, for today's video, I'm showing you guys the secret characters hidden within the game of Halo 1 or Combat Evolved. So, within this game, there are actually several secret characters or bipeds that are hidden in game files, and sometimes you do actually see them in game, but you may not have known they were actually alive. And some of them are just plain cut creatures. So, let's get right into it. And we're going to start off with the Engineer. So, this is one that a lot of people have probably seen before, and I've covered it in a couple of videos in the past, but Halo 1 did have a cut engineer in the game files that was never actually used, but still there in the game files, and we never see engineers again until Halo 3 ODST. But now that we can use cheats in MCC, thanks to mod tools, I actually enabled the bump possession cheat, and I was able to take over the engineer there and fly around and see what it's like to play as an engineer. Now, we're going to kill the engineer here and just see what it shows up as on the scoreboard later in the post-game carnage report. But as you can see, once the engineer is dead, it just kind of freezes in place, but you can still shoot its body and it still bleeds a lot in both versions of the graphics. Next up, we have these flood infection forms here. There's actually two variants of the flood infection form in the game. One is just a regular version, and one is called a no-pop version. The no-pop version is what I showed you first there, but I'm not sure what's actually different about them. They might be used for different purposes, but I'm not entirely sure. Next up here, we have the Crazy Marine that tries to shoot you on the mission 343 Guilty Spark. So, obviously you've seen the Marine before, but you may not have known that if you take over the Marine and play as this Crazy Marine, he actually has the ability to jump. And when he jumps, he jumps fine, and he actually T-poses when he jumps. And depending on where you're aiming, he will actually move his arm and point in that direction with the pistol as well. And if you combine this with the Acrophobia skull, because he can jump, we can also fly around with him in T-pose while waving his pistol around in like weird poses, kind of. So it just looks kind of ridiculous, but he can actually do all this, and you probably never knew he could do all this. But normally he's stationary and can't walk around. So we'll just kill him as well, just to see what he shows up as later on the post-game carnage report. Next up, we have several Marines from the mission Pillar of Autumn. These wounded Marines, you actually see at the beginning of the Pillar of Autumn, and they're just they're only seen during that beginning part of the mission and never anywhere else in the entire game. And just like the Crazy Marine, these Marines, when you take them over, can also jump and also go T-pose while jumping. But because they're unarmed, they won't aim anywhere when you look in certain directions, so they stay T-posed the entire time. And because these Marines never actually die in a game, if we kill them here, for the first time ever, you actually get to see an unused animation that is never used in the game, because these Marines, they can never die in the game. Because during that part of the mission Pillar of Autumn, there are no enemies and you are unarmed, so you can't betray them, nor can other enemies attack them. So that death animation on all these Marines is never before seen, pretty much. But anyways, this next Marine, same thing. It's different wounded animation, but same thing. You could jump, and this Marine goes T-pose when jumping. And of course, this Marine also has another never before seen death animation. Now this is the last wounded Marine that we see in the game on the Pillar of Autumn, and this one is slightly different because he's standing up. Now, same thing, goes T-pose when he jumps, but because his head is kind of facing a different direction, his head moves based on where you're looking, and it's just like a really weird animation there, weird like looking around thing. But this Marine does not have a exclusive death animation, he just has a regular Marine death animation. Alright, next up we have the Monitor himself, or 343 Guilty Spark. Now, 343 Guilty Spark has two versions in the game. They're both monitors, but one is called a Monitor No Light. Now, I can't really tell what the difference is visually. It might just be one version's used for cinematics only, but I'm not entirely sure. But I spawned both versions there, as you can see. And we're going to kill both versions and see what it looks like in the post-game carnage report if you were to kill the Monitor in the game. Now, this next one is actually just a shade turret from the Spirit dropship. But what you probably never knew is that these shade turrets are actually just living creatures, actual bipeds in the game. So these bipeds, they're actually just, like I said, they're just creatures, and you can actually take them over, and they come equipped with a weapon by default. And if you jump, they actually jump really high into the air. They have like crazy high jump height. But because of that, we can also fly around. Now what's interesting about these is that in newer Halo games with vehicle weapons, Bungie usually made vehicle weapons like separate vehicles and just have like an invisible AI controlling them. But in Halo 1, instead of doing that, Bungie just made them like actual living creatures and just attached them to the Spirit dropships. In fact, if you manage to kill them, they even have like a slight death animation, as you saw there. And they have all the same behaviors as bipeds, as normal characters when they die. Alright, for this next one, we have the Mangled Marine. Now I covered this one in previous videos, but of course have to include in this video as well. So, hidden in the game files is a Marine with his chest ripped open. And this Marine is never used in the game and is cut from the game. But it's very similar to the Mangled Elite that we see on the mission 3 for the Guilty Spark. Now of course we never actually get to see the full Elite on that mission, but I have done videos where I moved the camera to different angles. We could see the Marine with the chest ripped open. But that Elite is actually not a biped, it's just a scenery object. But for some reason the Mangled Marine is an actual playable character. Alright, so next up we have the Pilot. So this pilot is the one we see fly the escape pods on the mission Pillar Bottom and the beginning of the mission Halo. And you can actually see her face now in classic graphics. I don't remember if we actually saw her face in the cutscene or not, but that's what she looks like. Now, she's only used in cutscenes, so when you actually spawn her in game, not only is she T-posed, but she is not solid either. So that's the case with her. Next up, we have the Proto Gravemind, or in the game files, the Flood Captain, which is the floodified version of Captain Keyes. There are actually two versions of this in the game. The one that we see normally in gameplay is actually a scenery object, as expected. But there is a version that I don't think is ever used in game, which is an actual biped, an actual living, breathing character. And because of that, we can actually take it over. Now that we're playing as the Proto Gravemind, or the Flood Captain, it can actually slightly jump around. It cannot walk or anything, but it can slightly jump, and because it can slightly jump, using the Acrophobia skull, I can actually just fly around. And if I land, its physics are all weird, and it just kind of slides around on the ground, and I can't control it. So I have to keep it in flight in order to keep it under control. But yeah, the Proto Gravemind, or the floodified version of Captain Keyes, is actually a character in a game, not just a scenery object. Although I don't think the character is actually ever used, but it is there. And maybe at one point they were gonna have this be like an actual character that can move around and attack you or something. Who knows? But it can be killed, and it even has a slight death animation, as you just saw there. And again, it behaves just like a regular dead biped. You can shoot the dead body and everything, but it's not solid anymore. Alright, for the last character, this is called an Invisible Damage Detector. In classic graphics, it's invisible, but in Anniversary, it's a black cube. So what this is on the mission The Mall, when you're supposed to blow up the engine cores near the end, you shoot a rock into the engine cores. Inside the engine cores are two of these invisible damage detectors. So Bungie kind of maybe like a hacky cheat way of detecting if you killed destroy the engine cores. And the way they did that is they had these bipeds that they just hid inside the engine cores that would get killed by your rockets, and that's how they knew that the cores were destroyed, because you killed the living creature inside. And if you remember from a previous video, killing these invisible damage detectors actually count as brute kills in the game. So they're technically invisible brutes as far as the post-game carnage report is concerned. But anyways, here we are on the post-game carnage report. We could see I killed one Shade Turret, one Engineer, two Sentinels, which are probably the monitors, one Flood Combat Form, which I assume is the Flood Captain, or the Proto Gravemind, which is, Captain Keyes as a Flood. We killed 10 Flood Infection Forms, that's correct. We betrayed 4 Marines, which is probably all the wounded Marines and the Mangled Marine. But we have one Marine kill, which is probably the crazy Marine that tries to shoot us. And of course we have the brute kill, which is the invisible damage detectors from the engine cores. But yeah, so there you guys have it. Those are all the secret characters hidden in Halo 1. Some of them are hidden in plain sight that you might not have known were actually alive. Others were cut from the game, and others are normally in the game but have certain secret properties or abilities that you probably never knew about. But yeah, hopefully you guys found this video to be interesting. And if you did, then as always, make sure to leave a like, leave your thoughts in the comments. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe. And I will see you all next time. Bye, guys.